So, hi. Let's jump into episode 2 of My Five Wives because I do love this show. I think it's a lot of fun. And honestly, I don't remember a ton of it because I haven't rewatched it in quite some time. So, hi, if you're new here, my name's Cozy. I like to snark about reality television here on YouTube. I do like to remind you that these videos are for entertainment purposes only. These are not facts, they're just my opinions about public figures sharing their lives publicly. Cool? Cool. All right, so with me, as always, is my teeny tiny co-host, Graham. I say teeny tiny, even though he's enormous. He's 5 months old and about the same size as a lot of people's full-grown dogs. So there's that. He is going to be snoring through pretty much this entire thing. So if you hear little puppy snores, he also yips and barks in his sleep. So if he does that too, sorry, it's just going to be what it is. It is kind of funny. We can laugh about it later. So, getting into the show, we open up at Polly's house where everybody is trying to get themselves together and out the door for breakfast. And Brady's like, it can be a 2 to 3 hour ordeal trying to get out the door. Holy goodness. Polly is just trying to herd her children toward the school bus. And she reminds us that they have 6 kids and have been married for 22 years. So there is a significant gap in time between when the first episode was filmed and when the second one was. The first one looks to be filmed somewhere in the springtime based off of everyone's clothing choices. This, on the other hand, is very close to Thanksgiving and there's already snow on the ground. So we have a pretty decent gap. She's trying to get herself out the door. I don't know what Polly does for a living. I don't know if they ever tell us, but she appears to be wearing scrubs. So the bare minimum, she and Rhonda both appear to work in the medical field. So Brady pops by Robin's house, wife number 2, to say his goodbyes for the day. And he warmed up her car for her since it's been snowing and it's really quite cold, obviously. Robin and Brady have been married for 21 years, and Robin says that she could tell being a polygamous wife wasn't easy because it wasn't easy for her mom. He hops on over to Rosemary's house where she's trying to help perfect her boy's hair for school. Those two have been married for 19 years with 4 kids. And Rosemary says that everyone expects her to be wearing a prairie dress and have no personality, and that is not her. Noni is trying to convince little Taylor to eat her breakfast and explains that she's been married to Brady since 1998. And I was like, that wasn't that long ago. And then I sat here and was like, the 90s were 30 years ago, and hurt my own feelings. So there was that. Noni and Brady have 5 children, and Noni feels like there's a lot of judgment for being a polygamist. She says, you don't have to be afraid of something that you don't understand. I disagree. I'm afraid of a lot of things I don't understand, frankly. Mostly because I don't understand them. Over at Rhonda's, she's getting everyone's cereal poured and getting ready to leave for work herself. She is Brady's 5th and final wife, and she feels the need to remind us once again that she and Brady dated before he ever even dated Polly. Things didn't work out, and then they got married after everyone else. I think this is deeply important to her. It's something she seems to hold on to a lot, but for me, it does feel a little passive-aggressive. She says she was raised with the fear of never letting anyone know that you lived in a polygamous family, lest you be arrested. And she's like, we're the same as any other family. We're just trying our best to be good people. And I know we've heard this before on TLC about polygamists. You are not the same as every other family. Most other families don't have 30 people and the husband doesn't have a million women. I'm just trying to be fair here. Noni explains the layout of the 2 homes. She says that they're each about 2,000 square feet and they have a shared laundry room. So the name of the game in this house was equality. Looking at you, Coyote Pass Lots. So Robin says she feels like it's great that they can share such close space and still have their own home, something just for themselves, because it feels really important that it allows them the space to have their privacy and be themselves. And I feel like it's ideal. And Rosemary's, yeah, like other than that whole laundry room thing, right? And Brady's like, the only time that I have to myself is when I am driving to work in the morning. And Rosemary does point out that Brady is under a tremendous amount of stress and pressure because he has to work to provide for a family of 30. And Brady and his brother, own their own construction business, and it can be hard to make ends meet because the Williams grocery budget is $4,000 a month. I can't even imagine. I don't know what in the world we would be eating in this house if our grocery budget was $4,000 a month. We'd be doing surf and turf every night. Holy goodness. Whew. And Brady's brother, we meet him and he says, I'm not a polygamist. I never have been a polygamist. I wasn't even much of a Mormon when I was a Mormon. You'd have to be crazy to want to do this. So while not necessarily on board with it, he doesn't really disparage his brother. It is Rhonda's night to cook dinner tonight, and they show us the chaos that ensues. 30 people for dinner is a lot. Polly says the kids line up, the older kids know to help serve the younger kids. It's great. And Rosemary's like, this is super important time for us because it's a great time for us to all actually get together, touch base with each kid every night, and interact with the kids each day. So, to put that in perspective, the Brown family tried to do family dinner, at least while they were living in Lehigh, at least 3 times a week. They would try to get together and have dinner all together. We know from the most recent season that really fell off after Vegas. They just stopped doing it. We heard a lot of excuses for why, but they just stopped doing it. Where the Williams family felt like that was an every night thing. If we are a family, we are together as a family. And I think that's really kind of commendable. Rhonda's like, I work all the time. I don't make it to that many family dinners. Actually, in fact, if it's not my night, I feel like I don't even get to talk to Brady at all. I would heavily disagree with that sentiment, but that could just be editing, so we're going to leave it there. The producer does ask them, hey, how's this rotation work? So Noni explains that it's Polly, then Robin, then Rosemary. I'm sorry, Polly, then Robin, then Rhonda, then Rosemary, and then finally Noni herself. And the producer's like, so you guys don't all sleep in the same bed together? And Brady's like, whoa, there is never more than one wife in a bed at a time. And Rhonda's like, well, except that one time in Vegas. And everyone bursts out laughing. And Rosemary's like, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It is Noni and Brady's night. And she looks forward to these nights with Brady. And they chat a little bit. And he's like, where'd you go today? You were gone for a long time. And Noni's like, I was just doing the shopping and everything that needs to get done in a day. I can understand this. Men do not seem to understand how long it takes to grocery shop. I think they feel like we go to one store. Now, I'm going to put this into perspective. There are 2 Dunkin' Donuts in my town. One on the far east side of town and one on the far west side of town. It takes approximately 15 minutes to get from one Dunkin' to the other, okay? Gives you a vague idea of how small the town I live in is, okay? So, in between the Dunkin' and the Dunkin', there are no grocery stores from the midpoint of the town to the Dunkin' on the far side of the east. So say 7.5 minutes of no grocery stores. The other 7.5 minutes of travel is grocery stores. They are all close together, and it still can take me 3 hours to do it. So I feel you, Noni, because you never know. You might have to hit the Aldi, and then that's a local chain. I'm not going to say its name. The local grocery store. Maybe the Walmart. You might have to hit up the Marks. I don't know. Maybe even the True Value and the Home Depot. Is it weird that we have 3 hardware stores in this tiny town, 2 Dunkin' Donuts, and 5 Subways? I just explained how small this place is. We have 5 Subways. Why am I ranting about this? Anyway, Noni got the shopping done. Rosemary says that sharing a husband was what she had expected to do since she was young, and expects intimacy to be a part of that. And the other wives are like, whoa, I just don't think about it. I don't want them thinking about me. All I worry about is whether or not Brady is with me at a given time. That's it. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Rosemary seems to have this very healthily compartmentalized, where the other women are just like, I'm not comfortable with that, and so I just let it go, which is fine too. So Brady asks Noni if they have a family meeting that day when he wakes up the next morning, and she says, yeah, at Polly's. So quick cut to everyone in their Sunday best, and Brady's like, all right, sweethearts. And I think that is such a cute thing that he just has a name that he calls everyone when they're all together, because I've heard him use different pet names for each of the women individually, where baby, babe, love, all of that. But when they're all together, they get that one singular name. And it strikes me because I remember the episode of Sister Wives where they all talk about Cody having a different pet name for all of the wives. And I would feel, to me, like you would potentially place a value on the name that you get. Because, of course, we had a lover, we had love, we had, I can't remember what the other 2 were. Honestly, I can't remember what Christine and Robin's were at all. But could you imagine if somebody gets to be lover and you're like sweetie pie or something? I would feel like, oh, so you love her more than you love me. So I really think it's nice that when they're all one group, Brady just calls everybody sweetheart, and they can all just feel loved and connected. Noni explains that they meet once a week to discuss issues, and Rosemary opens things up by saying, Brady asked me where I'd want to move, and she's curious what everyone else thinks. Now, we know that they live in a community that is a closed polygamous community for members of their church. Having left the church, they no longer feel welcome in the community, and the community very much so agrees with that. So they're considering moving, and Brady's got 3 options he wants them to consider, which is Washington State, Montana, or staying in Utah somewhere in the mountains. And he wants to do a poll right now. So everybody's like, I really want to go to Montana, except for Polly. Polly's like, I'm sorry, everyone wants to go to Washington, except for Polly. Polly's like, I don't want to go to Washington at all. I'd rather stay here in Utah, Montana if I had to, but I don't want to go anywhere. And it gets really tense while everybody's trying to hear out Polly and understand. And Rhonda's like, these meetings can be intense, but they're important to keep things moving. And Robin is trying to be really diplomatic to Polly's feelings. And she's like, listen, wherever we would go, it's going to take some time to feel like home. And Brady agrees. The next morning, Brady gets up at Rosemary's house and goes in to check with Robin before he leaves. And he's like, hey, do you need me to take Zane to karate? And he's like, or Dane to karate. And she's like, no, because he has a choir concert. And she laughs, and she's like, he just can't keep up with everybody sometimes. And I get it. I have 3 kids. I can barely keep up with that. So Brady makes his way to the other homes, and he's slipping on the ice as he's doing so. But he stops in to say good morning to Rhonda and Nick. And Rhonda's like, Brady tries to make a connection with each of his kids every day. And at Polly's, Brady pops in and asks her about her van and how are they going to get it. I'm assuming it's at a repair shop. They actually never clarify. But this is all just a lead-in for him to say, because I have school today. Because this man is working full-time, owning his own business, having a family of 30 people, and attending school. Polly's like, somebody will help me get it. It's no big deal. And at Noni's, he is in a rush. And he's like, listen, I have a paper due Tuesday. And Noni's packed him a lunch and he grabs it and out the door. Now, here's the deal. Both of those scenes feel very framed for what is going to come, because it was obviously a way to lead in to let us know that Brady's attending school. The paper on Tuesday becomes very obviously staged here in a minute. Brady says that he loves going to school. He gave it up straight out of high school because he got married and then had kids, and it was just a whole thing. But now he's going back, and his kids, his older kids, really seem to support him because he's really excited about getting his degree and setting a good example for them. He's been in college for 2 years, and his projected graduation date is in 2015. So I decided to Google it, and according to Starcasm, he and Rosemary graduated together, got to walk together at Utah Valley University in 2016. So they did graduate. I think that's adorable. Brady gets home from school, upset that a paper that he thought was due Tuesday was due today. And now he needs to pull an all-nighter to get it done. And the problem is that he spends each night with a different woman. And so it's Robin's night tonight, and she's very sensitive to these things, so he knows that it's going to be an issue. And he tells Rhonda first, explaining that he thought it was due Tuesday, but the professor said that the sooner Brady gets it in, the less points he'll take off. So that's why I also said I feel like it's weird that Rhonda thinks that she doesn't get to talk to him. So he's like, this is the first time I've done this in 2 years. It's a huge mistake, but there's no changing nights, and the wife that I'm with is just going to have to deal with it. And this is not going to go so hot. The whole family is together now, and Brady apologizes to his kids, saying, I am so sorry I've been so crazy lately. I'm just trying to make sure that everything at work and at school gets done so we can have a fantastic Christmas break together. And he asks one of the older daughters to pray, and when they do, I think this is kind of cute. She says a line, they say it back. She says a line, they repeat it back. She says a line, they repeat it back. And I think it's a really neat and fun way to try to get the kids to understand how prayer works, like the little kids. So I think that's really kind of cool. I don't know if this is something that like is a prayer they do every single night and it's a call and response if it's something that was in their church, but I think it's a great way to teach the kids. But when they break, Brady says, hey, whoever's in line first, feed Nick and Taylor. Because I get it. At first I was like, dang, you guys, you could be up there feeding the kids. Holy goodness. These kids spring up and bolt out the door. There is no way that a parent is getting through that mess. Just saying. But Robin admits that with 30 people in the family, it can feel like Brady's focus is everywhere but her, and she is so looking forward to their night together. And Brady, for his part, says that this is going to be awful and disappointing for them to not have that. So he breaks the news to her. Hey, I messed up. This paper was due today, and I need to pull an all-nighter to get it done. And Robin is, of course, upset. But he's like, you can come to the kitchen and see me anytime you want. And Robin's like, I have such limited time with him, and he's always so busy, so this is really tough. These are their nights to connect, and to lose one is difficult. But we go to another family meeting, and Brady is introducing an idea to his wives. And this idea he is calling safe talks. The idea of a safe talk is that you would set your emotions aside at the door and try to have an understanding conversation where you can be understood and the other person is understood. There's not intended to be any defensiveness. There's not intended to be any hurt feelings. You just want to bring up an issue and discuss it. He says his wives are really considerate of each other's feelings almost to a fault because they won't bring things up. And when they do, they expect him to be kind of the middleman go-between. And while he doesn't mind it, this isn't plural monogamy, it's a plural family, and he wants them to be able to discuss things openly with each other. Rhonda's the first one to call out that this is just asking for trouble because some wives are just more comfortable going to Brady. So he might have a point, but it's probably not going to end up as well as he'd like. Brady's like, listen, this is just supposed to be open lines of communication. I don't want problems to fester. And Noni's the first to admit that she is super concerned about this idea, but that doesn't mean she wants to shut it down immediately. Brady reminds her that this is intended to be done in love, so you can be real and grow closer with one another. And Noni's like, I am the most vocal of my sister wives, and I just don't want anybody to have a reason to have a safe talk with me. Because she is afraid of them. And Brady asks for thoughts. No one speaks right away, but eventually Polly speaks up and says she thinks it's a good idea. She wants to be close to her sister wives and thinks that this could help that. And Polly, while having her reservations, says she thinks she might need to request a safe talk with a couple of people. Robin also admits some fear, but she's excited to see where this could take their family. And with that, they codify the safe talks and liken it to jumping off of a cliff, which Brady says, we've done that a lot. This is more like climbing a mountain. So, Brady knows Polly is intending to ask Noni for a safe talk, and to prepare her, he wants to check in. But Brady could have done this a little better because he's like, hey, listen, if somebody was to have a safe talk with you, there's no need to be defensive, right? And she's like, does somebody want to have a safe talk with me? And he's like, I don't know, maybe. There was a better way to handle this. It would have been, hey, listen, I'm coming to you to let you know Polly would like to have a safe talk. Just so that you're prepared, these are the expectations of that, so that we can make sure going forward this is okay. I understand the anxiety that would bring because it would bring me anxiety, but the anxiety of being ambushed by one or hearing that, hey, maybe somebody wants to have one and not knowing where it's coming from would actually be significantly worse. I would be panicking. So the safe talk that Brady is currently having with Noni is going horribly because she's very defensive and she wants to point out that these skills take time to build and she wants to know that there will be forgiveness for things not going perfectly. And Brady's like, listen, I'm going to try to remember not to be defensive. And Noni's like, I want to make this a success, but I am apprehensive and I am promising nothing. So on Polly and Brady's night, Brady gently brings up the idea of moving. And he's like, I'm excited about it. And I know it might not happen. So he asks her, so what about your reservations about this? And she's honest that it just doesn't feel right. She's never lived anywhere but Utah. And so it feels weird to be considering anything else. And Brady is like, well, everyone needs to be considered in these big decisions, and Polly having some misgivings is okay, because she says she just doesn't know, and Polly appreciates that Brady is actually listening to her about this. So later, the wives are meeting at Robin's house, and she thanks them for coming. Apparently, the last time she invited them all, they didn't come. And Rosemary's like, hey, my kids made plans for me, and that kind of takes precedence over this. And Robin's like, Brady's encouraging us to be more open, and so I'm here wanting to discuss the idea of moving. She says her kids are really excited about it, but everyone keeps saying, wait till I graduate, wait till I graduate. And Rosemary's kids are saying the exact same thing. Everyone wants to move, but no one really wants to leave their friends. And no one wants to leave the community on bad terms, but the only way to get back in the good graces of the community is to return to the church. And Rosemary's like, because we've left the group, we're just not fitting in anymore. And so they don't fit with the regular monogamous community, they don't fit in with the church community. They talk about the kids being way more open about having multiple moms than they ever would have been. And Robin's like, things were so difficult for me because my brother from another mom was in my school and I'd have to be like, that's my cousin. And she's like, she could feel a lump in her throat and it always hurt her a little bit whenever people talk about these connections. But they're glad their kids haven't had to go through that. And Noni mentions that she's on board with moving, and she really likes Washington, but she doesn't know if she can handle the cloud cover. And Rosemary's like, well, it wouldn't have to be Seattle. We could move somewhere here in the valley. And they feel it would be better for their kids just to move. And Polly does admit in her confessional that moving isn't all bad, but she really likes Rosemary's idea of staying in Utah. She has family here, and this is where she's comfortable. So Rosemary's like, the most exciting thing about moving would be having my own laundry room. And Robin's like, you excited to get your own laundry room or stop sharing one with me? And Rosemary's like, I am excited for everyone to have their own laundry room. I can understand that. When you have a laundry room you share and there are 30 people in a family and you need to get some clothes done, that can be a rough go. We are about to head into our first safe talk. Spoiler alert, it goes horrifically. Polly heads over to Noni's and she's like, hey, I just wanted to maybe have an understanding and a chat. Apparently, Polly's in charge of the bills, and Noni had stepped in and, what are you doing, sir? And paid one without telling her. This seems really petty. And Polly's just trying to understand, is this a one-time thing? Do you want to take this over permanently? What do you want to do? And then Noni gets immediately defensive. And she's like, listen, I thought I was just doing a favor by paying it, but I guess Polly wasn't expecting it. This is a really silly thing to be upset about, and it blows up stupidly. In a family with tight resources, I can understand that you would need to know when to expect a bill to come out. You'd need to know what's going on. Ensuring that it's been paid is a big deal, but Polly is kind of being a little petty here. You could have just said, hey, that bill, instead of asking for a safe talk like this, instead of doing any of that, hey, Noni, that bill that you paid, thank you so much for doing that. Is that something you'd like to do going forward, or do you want me to still take care of them? Boom, done, ended. At any rate, she thinks she wasn't going to upset Noni, but she did. So we cut off there as as Polly just walks out on Noni's upset self, and Brady and Robin are headed out on a little date. He realized that he disappointed her with this all-nighter and wanted to do something special to make it up for her, so he took her out to a little restaurant, and Robin appreciates it because their personal dates are like few and far between. They discuss how long it's been on this date, and he's like, I don't want to disappoint anyone, but in polygamy, it happens all the time. And Robin's like, this was great just to be able to go out and spend some time together. Unfortunately, things at Noni's house are not going nearly as swimmingly. She and Brady are locked in a screaming match about the safe talk that she had with Polly. Noni's been texting Brady all day, and he knows that she's deeply concerned about this conversation. Once again, the pettiest drama I have ever seen. I love this show, but this was ridiculous. Clearly, things have escalated because when they join them, they are heated. Noni is already raising her voice, yelling at Brady, and Brady can't understand what it is about Noni that she is so afraid of someone understanding her, and Noni can't understand why everyone has to be so afraid of feelings. Nothing they're saying makes any sense at all. They are so far gone in this fight that everything is out of context. Actually, Brady is making more sense than Noni, but still. They are going back and forth about how Polly was hurt. Noni was hurt. Noni didn't want to hurt Polly. Polly didn't want to hurt Noni. They are just, it's bouncing, bouncing, bouncing. And finally, Brady's like, listen, she just wanted to understand what the expectation was. And Noni, not understanding why this is such a big deal that she was trying to take stress off Polly, is upset about it. And Brady is like, what about, because she's just losing her mind, and Brady's like, what about things you need to own up to that you don't know about by screaming at me that these safe talks can't happen? And she's like, if I need to own up to something, I will. The point being, Noni, if you don't know about it, which Brady says, how can you own up to it if no one's allowed to have a conversation with you? I don't understand where this fight is coming from. Brady's trying to understand where she's coming from, and I think Noni is just very on the spot. She's very upset. She's in her feelings, and she is just exploding. This conversation should never have blown up into this big a deal. It is a bill that got paid. Noni, do you want to pay the bill for forever or not? Yes or no, it's not that big a deal. Just let Polly know so that she knows whether or not to expect it. Bam. Honestly, I don't get any of this, but this was like the first big drama, and so they filmed it for us and we had to watch it. And Brady's like, do you need to act this way? And she's like, this is how I react. Don't change me. And she is losing it. And, like, Noni needs to take a break from this fight, really. She needs a moment to cool down, get her thoughts together, and that is super hard to do when you are in a heightened emotional state. And Brady's like, it is so hard to have a wife this upset, and you want to work with her, and you want to help her. And she's like, accept me for who I am, and they can do the same. Brady finally gets heated and is like, is this what you want? Everyone to have their feelings hurt every time they try to speak? I think he's meaning that if we can't set aside our defensiveness and heightened emotions, people are going to constantly be hurt and upset because it's just going to be screaming matches. But Noni's already shut down. She is lying down in bed and she's like, I can't talk to you anymore. So he gets up and lets her have her space. He says he isn't sure that everyone's buying into this safe talk idea and maybe he needs to go back to the drawing board on it. And Noni is clear in her confessional that she only feels comfortable talking to Brady and handling everything through him. Hi, sweetheart. He does come back to the conversation a few days later and asks if she's in a good place to talk about it. And he's like, I'm confused. Polly's confused. I just want to understand you better. And I think he's actually being kind of reasonable with her by expressing this confusion. And Noni's like, when you're the person who someone has a hard time with, It hurts. And Noni's feeling super sensitive to somebody having difficulty with her. She expresses some feelings that in the past have led her to feel like a failure. And I wonder if maybe she and Polly had a difficult relationship at one point and it's boiled over into this. I don't know, but she's very sensitive to things coming across as wrong to others and feeling like she's upsetting someone else. She just doesn't think that safe talks work for her. And Brady's like, it could work. Maybe I just set it up wrong. Maybe there was just too much pressure on everyone. And he's willing to take the blame for how poorly it went. And he wasn't even there. Huh. Interesting. A husband willing to take the blame in a plural family. Anyway. So he's like, listen, you ended up having a hard time with something really petty. And Noni's like, a deep insecurity was poked at. And he wants to know, why did you blow up at me? And Noni's like, listen, I felt like you were telling me I didn't need to be sensitive. And I wanted you to know that this is who I am. And he apologizes for being inconsiderate of her feelings. And Noni apologizes that she hurt Brady and Polly also. They seem to resolve this issue, and hopefully Polly will feel the same way. But I still think that this was way out of proportion and ridiculous over something as stupid as paying a power bill. Come on. Brady has another family meeting, and he essentially apologizes for pushing the safe talks. He's like, maybe I expected too much too quickly. If we need to rethink this, there's been some pushback. And he's like, listen, it was selfish of me to ask this of you. I'm still willing to be the go-between. I'll be the buffer that's historically worked out well. And you ladies generally get along pretty well, so maybe I didn't need this. You didn't need this from me. You didn't need this pressure to talk to each other. So Robin speaks up, and she's like, I was kind of excited to try this, but I don't want to push anybody. But I wanted to try to be open and work through some things that I haven't been able to work through on my own. So Robin expresses that she'd still like to have the option to try this, and it would be a really good way for her to express herself. Brady clarifies that he's not asking them not to do it, just he's not forcing them to do it. So they're more than welcome to do this if that's what they so choose. Otherwise, he is happy to stay in the middle. And he's like, I got through to Robin, and I really want her to be able to open up. And I think of all the women, Robin would struggle the most to open up from what we've seen. Noni's happy that Brady is willing to step into the gap and take the pressure off, and Polly is hopeful for the future of these safe talks. So the family heads off on a little hike together through the snow, and everyone is expressing how much they just love these moments together. And Brady says at the end of the day, his whole motivation is his family, and everything that he does is geared toward their happiness. And I think that's actually really sweet. Brady is obviously trying very hard to make sure that the wives feel like they have this open relationship that they can maintain with one another and have these conversations, have this communication. But I think it's really definitely hard when you have people like Noni, who are a little bit more sensitive, who seem to be a little bit more anxious about somebody being upset with them or something being taken the wrong way. And as somebody who is like that, who tends to get defensive, who tends to be anxious, who tends to get worried when people, the worst phrase in my life is somebody saying, can we talk? Especially over text, or I need to talk to you later, or we need to talk. Those sentences send me into such panic mode that I just won't talk to that person ever again. It can be something as simple as, hey, we need to talk. I want to plan something with you. Or, hey, we need to talk. I'm really excited about something. But if you use that phrase with me, I may never communicate with you again, potentially, because I don't like the idea of feeling like you're upset with me and unwilling to share it with me in that exact moment. Call it what you will. It's anxiety. It's whatever. But it scares the living pants off of me. So I can understand that. I do think that Brady could have approached that sort of lead in with Noni better to let her know which wife was coming to her and that everything was going to be okay. If he had maybe said, listen, Polly wants to request a safe talk with you, maybe she would have known what to expect, because when he just says somebody might, now you've got Rosemary, Rhonda, Robin, and Polly that you are constantly on guard waiting for them to walk into your home and say something to you. So every time somebody comes up to you, now you're kind of on guard waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for them to say something that's going to hurt your feelings. I can understand that stress level. I can understand where Noni's coming from. What I couldn't understand is why the whole thing blew up to the level that it did. Because frankly, if I said to somebody, hey, yo, you paid that bill, I appreciate your help, was that something you wanted to do forever? Or maybe I just let it go. Hey, you paid the bill. Thank you for your help. Are you going to get it next month, or is that me? Like, not that hard. Everything about that was just approached in a way that made it feel so blown out of proportion, and it almost made it feel like it was blown up in an essence, like it to be some sort of TV drama that then escalated into actual real life drama. I don't know. I can't say for sure. There are moments on the show, like the paper, that feel really scripted, and then there are moments that feel really genuine. And that fight with Noni and Brady felt way more genuine, where the safe talk with Polly and Noni felt kind of stilted and at least prodded by the producers from Polly's side. I don't know. It's just weird. I couldn't tell you for sure. That's just how it comes across to me. So that being said, that is episode 2 of My Five Wives. I do really like this show. Graham couldn't care less. He is asleep. But I'm glad he stood up and showed us all of his, big giant puppiness. Oh, baby. So there is that. I asked this question in my other My Five Wives video. I'm thinking about in April bringing back our Sister Wives recap reviews of the earlier episodes. I want to know if everybody's ready for that, if we're not ready for that, where we stand, what we want to do. Because if we're not ready for it, just be honest as a community. I'm not going to get angry. We'll just figure something out in the interim. If you are ready for it, I'm more than happy to bring it back. It is a little bit difficult to watch, but we're going to try and watch it from the lens of just looking at the family's history. That's where we're going to come at it from, rather than trying to really couch everything in the veil of what the most recent occurrences are. So let me know what you think. That's really kind of all I've got for this one. I do have another episode already watched and ready to go. I do have a Sister Wives one watched, ready to talk about, and I need to finish up watching Seeking Sister Wife episode 4. I got partway through it, but I can't watch it around my kids because it is just banana crap crazy. And I just don't want any of my children looking at Garrick and thinking that that's a role model. Hi, baby. So we're just not going to do that. Hi, sweet pea. So until the next one, guys, I will see you soon. I can't wait to talk to you. Bye.